8 women, 2 laps, 1 shot at glory. The women's 800 meters, the race that breaks hearts and builds legends. Kenya's Mary Moraa, one of the most dangerous closers on the planet. Ethiopia's Deribe Welteji and Ferweni Hailu, 2 runners who thrive when the pressure is at its highest. America's Nikki Hiltz, the crowd favorite with ice in her veins. Australia's Jessica Hall, Canada's Lucia Stafford, and 2 more Americans and a St. Vincentian who refuse to be overlooked. Every single one of them believes they can win this. The pace, the position, the moment, it all comes down to 2 laps around this track. Who has what it takes when it matters most? You're about to find out. In lane 8, Lucia Stafford of Canada, fresh off a 6th place finish in the 1,500 meters and looking to make her mark in this tighter 2-lap battle. Jessica Hall of Australia in lane 7. She's been burning miles between continents, squeezing in the Australian Championships before flying back to compete here, and she's hungry for a result. Deribe Welteji of Ethiopia takes lane 6. She ran 2 strong, composed races in the 1,500 and now switches down to the event where her finishing speed is absolutely lethal. Mary Moraa of Kenya in lane 5, the reigning world champion and Olympic bronze medalist, and this is unquestionably her best event on the Diamond League circuit. Nikki Hiltz of the USA in lane 4, one of the most exciting middle-distance runners in the world right now, with the raw speed and tactical smarts to go with any athlete in this field. Shafiqua Maloney of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in lane 3, a true 800-meter specialist who also carries serious 400-meter speed, making her a genuine threat at any pace. Ferweni Hailu of Ethiopia steps into lane 2. She and Welteji both ran the 800 at the World Championships in Eugene back in 2022. So this shorter distance holds no mystery for her. And Emily Mackay of the USA closes out the field in lane 1, a 1:57 personal best that makes her absolutely nobody's afterthought in this lineup. They're off, and it is slow. Almost immediately the pace drops, Maloney and Moraa right at the front, setting a tempo that is absolutely crawling. The 800-meter specialists are controlling this from the gun, and the rest of the field has no choice but to follow. Moraa and Maloney are dictating every second of this, daring the 1,500-meter runners to come around them. Hiltz is well placed in the pack, patient and controlled. Welteji and Hailu are tucked in, waiting for their moment. Through the back straight, nobody commits. The bell lap split comes in at 60.48. They have gone out so conservatively that the second lap could be something special. Moraa takes full control on the second bend. She is locked in at the front and she is not letting go. Hailu starts to move up on her shoulder. Hiltz swings wide, hunting clean air in a clear lane to fire through in the final straight. Into the final back straight, and Moraa is in her element. This is exactly where she is most dangerous. Hiltz slides wide, composed, finding space. Hailu swings almost into lane 3, eyes forward, committed. Hiltz cuts back inside and finds the gap. This final bend is going to be brutal. Into the home straight, and Moraa is driving hard. When she leads here, very few people on this planet can reel her back in. Hailu is right there in second, Hiltz coming hard on the inside, fighting for every inch. This is not going to be settled until the very last step. Moraa grinding through the pain, Hiltz refusing to fade, Hailu hanging on. The crowd is on its feet. 50 meters left. 30. Hiltz is closing. She is right there. This is going all the way to the line. Mary Moraa wins. The world champion delivers. Moraa throws her arms wide. Pure joy. Watch this again. From the gun, Moraa is immediately relaxed. Patient stride, shoulders loose, completely unbothered by the slow pace. She wants this tempo, and she controls it. Through the first bend, Maloney leads by a half step, but Moraa is right there, never worried. At the bell, Hiltz makes that lateral move perfectly, sliding out of the pack before the squeeze arrives. Hailu goes extremely wide, almost sacrificing position, but she's buying a clean lane for the home stretch. Now watch Moraa's drive through the final straight. The leg turnover is powerful, the lean into the line is textbook. Hiltz gave everything in that closing sprint, But when Mora leads with 40 to go, she simply does not get caught. 1:59.50, controlled, clinical, and completely dominant. The Kenyan flag is flying. Mary Mora is your champion. The race was won at the bell, not at the line, not in the final straight. The moment Mary Mora heard that bell with 60.48 on the clock, she already knew. A 60.48 first lap in an 800 meters final is barely above jogging pace for athletes at this level. Mora set that tempo deliberately, and when the second lap started, she owned it. Watch what she does coming off the second bend with about 250 meters left. She doesn't surge. She accelerates so gradually that nobody in the pack can identify the exact moment she shifted gears. That's the skill. Most 800 runners telegraph their kick. Mora makes you realize she's gone only after she's already 3 meters clear. By the time Nikki Hiltz found her lane on the outside and Furwani Hailu swung wide into what looked like lane 3, Mora had already built a gap that neither could fully close. The final gap tells the story in numbers. Mora 1:59.50, Hiltz 1:59.71, Hailu 1:59.81. 21 hundredths between first and second, 31 hundredths between first and third. In a genuinely fast 800, those gaps would be enormous. In a 60.48 opener, they're the product of a perfectly timed move by someone who knew exactly when to go and had the leg speed to sustain it. Mora's second lap was almost certainly sub 59 seconds. That's not a kick, that's a controlled demolition. The tactical picture from the first lap was fascinating. Shafiqua Maloney of St. Vincent and the Grenadines co-led with Mora through most of that opening circuit, which made immediate sense. Both have genuine 400-meter credentials. Maloney's presence up front wasn't just confidence, it was a deliberate attempt to dictate terms to the 1,500-meter runners behind them. When you have sub-50 speed in your legs, a slow 800 is actually a tool, not a threat. You can absorb the slow opening and still produce the closing speed. The athletes without that background, your Hall, your Stafford, your Weltegi, had to either follow and hope their endurance held, or try to neutralize Mora's finish by pushing the pace earlier. Nobody did the latter. Hiltz deserves specific credit for how she ran the second lap. She was hemmed in through the bell, which is the most dangerous position in a slow 800. When the pack suddenly accelerates, inside runners get boxed. She moved wide onto the back straight, which cost her maybe 2 meters of distance but bought her clean air and the ability to actually run her own race. She produced 1:59.71. That's a serious run. In a race with a faster first lap, say 58.5, Hiltz might have won this. Her finishing speed is real. She just couldn't close the gap Mora had already built by the time she found her lane. Hailu's bronze at 1:59.81 continues a pattern you've been seeing from Ethiopian middle distance women. They arrive at these Diamond League meets with impeccable tactical discipline and consistent top 3 finishes, without always getting the win. Hailu and Weltegi both ran the 800 at the 2022 World Championships in Eugene. That experience showed in how Hailu positioned herself, patient through the first lap, committing wide on the final bend. It wasn't enough to catch Mora, but it was smart racing from a composed athlete. The rest of the field, essentially from 4th place down, ran a race that was determined by where they sat at the bell. When the first lap goes 60.48, everyone's second lap is compressed into a sprint that lasts about 55 to 58 seconds. If you don't have a direct line to daylight at the bell, you're running around people, not past them. Daribe Weltegi, Lucia Stafford, Jessica Hull, Emily McKay. None of them ran badly necessarily, they just never had a moment to make something happen. Contextually, Mora winning an 800 at this level is not a surprise. She's the reigning world champion in the event. Her Olympic bronze in Paris came in a genuinely competitive final, but the way she wins matters as much as the result. She won't always produce the fastest time in the field. She won't always lead from the front. What she does consistently is control the variable she cares most about, which is the pace structure, and then deploy her finishing mechanics at the right moment. Very few 800-meter runners do that as cleanly as she does. For the women's 800 as an event, this race and its 60.48 first lap represents something worth watching. The discipline has been moving toward more tactical, championship-style racing even in Diamond League settings. Athletes with 400-meter backgrounds are increasingly dictating how finals are run. That's partly Mora's influence on the field. Nobody wants to be the rabbit that sets up her kick, so they go slow and hope they can outsprint her. They can't. What comes next for Mora is the Diamond League final in September, and then the attention will shift to next year's World Championships cycle. She's 23 years old. She already has a world title and Olympic medals. The question isn't whether she'll be at the front of this event for the next several years. It's whether anyone in the current field, or coming up behind her, has found an answer to the problem she poses. On the evidence of this race, they haven't. Hiltz came closest. 21 hundredths. That's the gap between a great performance and a winning one.